Now we're going to move along with the nose section. Now remember, the nose section, it's black and it's a little bit of a different ball game. Now I want to sort of try and quickly go through this because it's mainly down to colours, but what I've done is obviously I've masked this up and then I have primed it white. We're going for white because, as I say, when it comes to black, you can't really go off and, well, this is going to sound a bit like you can't really go off, but this is what we're actually going to do. It's done a little bit different because when you want to do some pre-shading and you do black and then you spray black on top, it's not really going to do anything. But the way we're going to go about it, it is. And although I've gone on about like black and all this kind of stuff, we're actually going to come in with black to do some pre-shading. Not much pre-shading in the sense of following, say, our panel lines like so. Right, as you can see, nice and simple there, just doing a bit of a quick all the way around our panel lines there, maybe sort of a quick one on the nose, right? But then what we're going to do, we're going to do a load of mottling. We've got all this space on here and we don't want that to just stay white, so we're going to do some nice mottling. And again, you know, it's all about getting in there, getting that biting point, and we're just going to do all sorts of mottling shapes, you know, figure of eights, we can do Tetris shapes, squiggles, all sorts of cool little shapes, just holding that biting point. You know, we're getting in sort of nice and close, and as you can see, we're just moving around real quick, sort of nice and fast, right? So we don't want to stay in one spot too long, because if we do, we're going to create spider legs, spidering effects. And as you can see, it's just as simple as that. Nice sort of mottling effect going on there. And what we're doing here, I've used a primer as white, so we've got a good contrast between the white and the black, so it will make when we put our top colour on here really sort of stand out that bit more. So I'm going to finish that off and we'll get some good coverage on this. So back to the Phantom here, we have our nose section all nicely sort of mottled up, bit of pre-shading on there, and then really the next step is pretty much the same as what we've been doing across the model, right? When it comes to things like pre-shading, we're going to start off by just trying to get a nice bit of coverage with our first coat. Right, and just like any sort of other pre-shading, when we come to do our second coat, let's get this paint nicely thinned down, nicely transparent, so we've got that control, so that yes, it might take us maybe 3 or 4 coats to get this pre-shading just coming through just right, but at least we have the control. So that first coat, as you can see, has started to bring that pre-shading through just a little bit, and you know, I'll thin this down for the second coat, so as it maybe takes 2, 3, 4 coats to get it just right. But the little trick to it is I haven't come in and used black to spray on here. The colour is actually Rubber Black by Tamiya XF85, and by doing that, we sort of, you know, Tamiya the rubber black here is like quite close to being black, but it's not quite totally and utterly black. And what's going to happen is that black pre-shading is going to come through as being black, and because we've got the white primer on there, it's really going to give us a nice sort of good looking black that's got some interest to it, rather than just being a flat black. And I'll just get that sprayed up and we'll take a look. So with our rubber black nicely down now, I might have personally gone maybe a little bit too far and almost sort of killed it off, but you probably might be able to see just on camera how you got these blotches, sort of like mottled effects with the rubber black. And as you can see, it's not like a, well, it's maybe a bit hard to see on camera, but it's not a full-on black and in your face, right? And it just makes it look a little bit more interesting than just being like a solid black. But what we're going to do now is kind of it's going to be sort of like a mixture between bleaching and the post shading, the final stage. I don't really want to sort of go off and do like full-on bleaching where you come in with, say, maybe a light grey or a sort of a darker grey, and sort of do that. You know, with black it's a little bit sort of tricky. You don't want to be adding sort of light colors too much, because it can sort of really go too far when it comes to black. So what I want to do actually is we're going to come in, and I've got just straight up black in here. What is it, the 057 by Vallejo, and we're basically going to do what we just did in the pre-staging stage, right? So we're going to do, you know, we can sort of do our nice bit of what we would do in pre-shading, but it's post-shading, just do our sort of follow our line, and then we're going to do our sort of, again, our mottled effect, right, giving us all sorts of squiggly patterns, right? So what we end up having here is like all these different sort of blacks, rubber blacks, you know, and we're sort of just kind of mottling it in, so we get this sort of really kind of, sort of a little bit hard to see because it's black, but this sort of more interesting black. As you can see, it's looking that little bit sort of mottled and not just a straight up flat black, right? Hopefully like that. I'm liking it. It's just a nice sort of subtle effect to it, and it kind of makes our black look more interesting. Now remember, the you know, it's the same rules apply. I've already shown you sort of post shading, you know, getting that biting point, remembering to sort of thin your paint right and get the right air pressures and stuff. Same sort of thing, only, you know, what we're basically doing here is just slightly a little bit different with like the colors, because it's black, i.e. the big one is really using rubber black as your base color, rather than just coming in with what the actual color is supposed to be. Use things like your pre-shading and your post-shading to bring those darker blacks in, but having this rubber black just kind of, you know, sort of knocks the black back a bit, just to make things more interesting. And that's one of the ways of going about spraying things like colors of black.